Welcome to a informational session for the 2026 annual town meeting. We are hosting this tonight. We will record it and post it online. We'll be hosting another one of these next Tuesday night, 6:30 at the same time. But we're also opening up office hours with the town administrator. We had them today from 3 to 5, and we'll have them again the next Tuesday and the Tuesday after that from 3 to 5. Please visit our website, manchester.ma.us. And if you go to the town meeting page, a lot of information related to town meeting, including the warrant, appendices related to many of the articles related to zoning, citizen petitions. A lot of backup information is available on the website as well. So in this presentation, I'm going to try to keep this to 30 to 45 minutes and then followed by Q&A. But this really is meant to be an open session. So if there's any questions in the room or online, please feel free to unmute yourself and ask at any point. We'll go through the town meeting process, preparing for the town meeting, an omnibus budget overview, and then highlight a few of the important articles, including the senior/community center design article, the capital projects, especially those specific to the Prop 2.5 exclusions, community preservation articles, zoning articles, and if there's time, citizens petitions. So while we are in April and we're just a few weeks away from town meeting, this process started. It's really a year-round process, but it almost dates back to June of last year when the planning board is right in the middle of preparing their zoning articles for consideration. And they're going through analysis, study, they're drafting language, they're having public meetings and taking public comment. Our process for the budget development really kicks off in the fall, in September, when we start doing our financial forecasting and seeking operational and capital requests from our department heads. In November, we take our initial forecast and our requests and we submit that to the select board and the finance committee. And then there's multiple revisions all the way through March. In December, December 1st, community preservation applications are due. I was on the roll there, Chuck. In December, community preservation articles are due on the 1st. And the CPC goes through a process from December to March, reviewing those applications, taking public comment, and eventually putting out their recommendation. By February 27th, it's in our bylaws that 60 days prior to town meeting, warrant article requests need to be submitted to the select board. So that includes citizen petitions. And then in March, throughout March, we're making our final revisions to the omnibus budget, to the warrant articles. The select board and the finance committee are making their final recommendations on those articles. The planning board is doing the same. And then the public engagement element really kicks in. We try to do website updates, social media updates. We utilize the Manchester Cricket with town administrator articles to try to give residents as much information as possible on the front end so they can be informed when they attend town meeting. So now I'm going to get into the omnibus budget. When we get into financial forecasting, we start looking at last year's revenue streams compared to the upcoming revenue stream. And what we do is we really divide it into two separate buckets of cash. The omnibus budget revenues are going to be inclusive of your local taxes, your available levy capacity, your local receipts, your state aid. That is your most consistent funding stream. And you're going to use those funds to pay for your most consistent expenses. Free cash is not free and it's not cash. I refer to it more like in your own personal life, kind of like a bonus from your job. You don't know how much it's going to be. You don't know if it's coming in every year. And ultimately, you're gonna spend that on one-time capital expenses. So we do this analysis because we would never want to use free cash money to spend on something like salaries, when you have that expense annual over year after year. The free cash is generated from a previous fiscal year formula. When you're looking at how much money you appropriated to spend last year, and if you spent less, the difference between those two numbers, and then the estimate of revenues, if you brought in more than what you estimated, the difference of those two numbers. Those two differences come together to certify a free cash use for the upcoming fiscal year. Different from general fund revenue. General fund revenue is the money that's going to come in the coming year that we're going to spend in the coming year. So we looked at, when we were doing our financial forecasting for this year, as you can see, when you separate those two buckets out, we're only looking at almost $300,000 increase in general fund revenues compared to last year. And we actually see a decrease in our free cash revenues of almost $600,000. When we combine those two together, our total available funds to use for the upcoming fiscal year is $42,175,220. That's utilizing the available levy capacity. We look at both numbers with and without available levy because ideally we hope to not have to utilize that additional levy capacity. That's the additional amount of tax revenue that we could tax for without needing a general override of Prop 2.5. But when you look at, we take this amount and then we start to get our budget requests in, and this is a preview to the next slide. The total budget request round one that came in totaled $71.3 million. So as you can tell, we have a significant gap that we're faced with in that first round of review, to about a little bit less than $30 million, whether you're utilizing the available levy capacity or not. So when we take this amount of funds that we have coming up, we start to say, okay, what do we have to spend? What do we have to pay this upcoming year? And this is kind of a list here in the middle that helps explain that. So we look at our state assessments, our employee salaries, which are in individual contracts plus collective bargaining agreements. We have our school assessments, we have insurance payments, we have retirement benefits, we have contracted services, and we have debt burden. And everything from debt burden up is essentially no choice for us. We have to pay those dollar amounts. And then department capital and operational requests, we review those and try to kind of filter through what is needed the upcoming year versus what's desired. And can we hold off a year? And then also we'll do an annual adjustment. Let's say last year, a department budget was increased for a particular capital item in that fiscal year. We'll now reduce it back down. We're not going to build this year's budget off of last year's number. It's kind of like a zero-based budgeting approach. So again, that round one, came in at $71.3 million worth of needs and requests with only $42.1 million of available revenue. After going through all of our process, we bring that number all the way down to 40.2. How do we get there? So that's either by saying no to certain requests, reducing certain requests, or shifting things outside of Prop 2.5. So if you look here at this top half of the list are a number of reductions or not funded amounts. One of the most significant reductions was the Manchester Essex Regional School District. Their budget, after going through their process and making changes, came down almost $750,000. We said no to a number of capital requests, or said we have to wait until next year. That includes $2 million for design of a DPW facility, $150,000 for the accounting finance software, Typically, every year, we put $350,000 towards our fire engine replacement fund. We pushed that off this year. And then additionally, another 300 or so $1,000 of harbor equipment requests. And then we took a lot of the major capital requests that we couldn't fit within under Proposition 2.5, and shifted those to override exclusion questions. So those are your big articles that I'll get into later in the presentation, but it's Lincoln Street Well, Central Street Culvert, harbor dredging, the rotunda, Tappan Street, and the ADA bathroom for the library. So when you total all this up, we're able to essentially kind of adjust our budget to the tune of about $33 million. That's how we bring that number down and fit it within our tax capacity. So now starting to highlight some of these articles. Article 5 is your standard capital article. So some of the big items in capital this year include your standard road resurfacing and drainage, sidewalks improvements, building upgrades, Bennett Street design. That's our next big roadway construction project following Tappan. Our standard fleet replacement, a number of different software upgrades that are needed, police vehicle replacement, fire vehicle replacement, firefighting equipment, Morse Pier, harbor project. That is a town match to a grant that's been awarded to the town for that project, and sewer capital needs. As you can see, there's different funding sources. So we only had about $225,000 of free cash that we could use towards these articles. The rest of our free cash that we have, we earmark and set aside for our reserves. So we use a stabilization account and the remaining amount of free cash to the tune of about 8% of our total budget to be kept in our reserves. That's like your savings account. All of these decisions are important because it affects the town's bond rating. The more money you have in your savings account, the more money you're putting towards your debt, the more you're being financially sound, the better your bond rating is going to be, or in other terms, your credit score, and the better interest rates you're going to get when you go out to borrow. Article 6 features the senior/community center design. This article is proposing $350,000 to be spent from the Recreation Revolving Fund. This is not taxpayer dollars. This comes from program fees through the recreational department. Because of this project is now being considered to be both a senior and community center, it makes those that funding source eligible for this project. We're hoping to use those funds to essentially get to a full design and construction document so that we're shovel ready for this project when the time comes. The real estate purchase with the Masons is in its process of being closed as of yesterday. And the total renovation features about 7,500 square feet, a multi-purpose room, a brand new kitchen, a library, lounge area, new bathrooms, office space, and we'll be able to have the recreation department, the council on aging department have their office space here in this building, along with a new dedicated space for the Masons and a front porch and some site work as well. Article 11 is the Lincoln Street Well PFAS improvements. This is a debt exclusion override for up to $16.5 million. A lot of words here, but to briefly explain, we have standards that we're required to meet by 2029, potentially could be moved to 2031. The existing standards related to PFAS and water quality, we are compliant with. But these new standards from the EPA and the DEP are essentially making us do these upgrades to bring our quality in compliance with those new standards. The key thing to know here is that we have two different borrowing opportunities. We can either use, we've been approved for the state revolving fund, which is offered through Massachusetts DEP, which provides us long-term, low-interest loan opportunity. However, that program also tends to come with increased costs because of requirements and materials to be US products and also additional oversight requirements that add to cost. So we actually have the bids out on this project currently. Our sub bids came in on the 1st of April, and our general contractor bids will come in next week. We're hoping that those bids will come in under budget, and we actually asked bidders to submit to us a project cost if we were to borrow it locally on our own, or if we were to borrow it through SRF. So we'll be able to do an analysis on those bids to decide which borrowing avenue we want to proceed with, and then we'll speak about that at town meeting. The borrowing for all of these debt exclusion projects is an up to dollar amount. So whatever the total cost of the project is, once it's completed, that is the amount that the town will borrow. And so we give you a tax bill impact based on the estimated cost of the project, but it's subject to change based on the true cost of the project. This, at $16.5 million, the tax bill impact on a $1 million household is $252 a year post-construction. So once we finalize the construction, the full borrowing goes into effect. That's the larger amount of tax bill impact. In the first couple of years, it's less than that, since we're in construction and doing short-term borrowing. We do have Gravelly Pond as our other treatment facility. That'll be the next project that we look into, and well, we've already done the analysis. It'll be design work next, and then eventually construction. However, it won't. We don't expect it to be nearly the same cost, because this project requires a facility expansion where Gravelly Pond does not. Article 12, Central Street culvert improvements. The thing the key point to remember here is that while this is a debt exclusion override to authorize for borrowing up to $5 million, this is a backup plan to two other funding sources via grants. We have a BRIC grant through FEMA that is currently in litigation at the federal level to potentially be extended. We also recently applied for a grant through the state, through Municipal Vulnerability Program for that same dollar, well, for $5 million. So if the BRIC grant isn't extended, hopefully we get the MVP grant and we can supplement the funding with that. This is in case neither of those things happen. But the town's goal is to hold off on borrowing or utilizing this override if approved, as long as we can, to hear about whether or not the BRIC grant or the MVP grant will come to fruition and be able to utilize that for the cost of the culvert project. We have a MassDOT small bridge grant of $500,000, as well as a NOAA CZM grant of about $1.5 million. That is part of this project for the Sawmill Brook restoration phase of the project as well. Again, if approved, and if those grants do not work out for us, and we have to utilize this borrowing, and we borrow up the full $5 million, the tax bill impact post-construction on a $1 million household is $94.50. Article 13, Manchester Harbor dredging. This is a debt exclusion override for up to $1.9 million. This is matched with a $1.9 million Seaport Economic Council grant. This is to dredge Proctor's Cove and the channel to Norton's Point. We try to do dredging every 10 years as recommended by our dredging management plan. The permitting is underway, and I'll speak a little bit more about the harbor projects. We have 4 different harbor projects in front of us that we're hoping to have funding and permitting all aligned together so we can go out to bid on those projects and hopefully get some significant cost savings for the town. The estimated tax bill impact on this $1.9 million on a $1 million household is $31.50 post-construction. Article 14 is the rotunda at Tux Point. This is a $2 million debt exclusion borrowing, and it's for construction repairs and raising of the rotunda and the ramp. We have a couple different funding sources for this project. This project is estimated at $3.6 million. The town has previously appropriated $1.3 million. 800 of that came from general fund, 500 of that came from CPC last year. In this year's CPC recommendation, there's an additional $350,000 towards this project, and this $2 million borrowing would make up the rest of it. Again, on a $1 million household, the tax bill impact on this project is $42 a year. So benefits of combining the harbor projects. Numerous marine companies in the area have the ability to perform the work associated with all 4 projects. That's Reed Park Float Extension, which is fully funded by grants. Morse Pier, which is mostly funded by grant with town match. The rotunda, as I just explained, and dredging, which is half funded by grant. If we can combine the procurement of all 4 of these projects at the same time, we can reduce a number of redundant activities, on-site inspection, mobilization, and oversight, which will provide us a significant amount of cost savings compared to if we procured them individually. If you take all 4 of these projects and combine their estimated cost, it's about $7.5 million. If you layer in all the grant funding that we've received or previously appropriated money, and then take the debt exclusion questions for rotunda and dredging, the tax bill impact on a $1 million household is estimated at $73 a year. So for $73 a year, combining all these projects, you're getting $7.5 million worth of work. Article 15 is Tappan Street. This is a $4.1 million debt exclusion override. This is for full depth reconstruction of town-owned utilities, roadway, and sidewalks. This is the next significant roadway project in the DPW schedule of water and sewer replacements. We similarly have completed Pleasant Street, School Street, Forest Street, and Mill Street. It's been a priority because there's a 120-year-old cast iron water main, undersized sewer, and issues with the stormwater. Additionally, National Grid is anticipated to replace the gas main, so it makes sense to do all this work at the same time instead of doing some work and having a road that's constantly under construction or paving and then having to do utility work after you pave. The estimated tax bill impact on a $1 million household for this project is $84 a year. The ADA library at the bathroom, Article 18, is a little bit different from the previous debt exclusions that I spoke about. The previous debt exclusions are multi-year tax bill impact. This is a capital debt exclusion. So the cost of this project, it affects your tax bill only for 1 year. This is a $250,000 project. This is the existing library. If you've been in the library, you know that the single bathroom there is inadequate. The new bathroom will be in the place of where the director's office is. It'll be ADA compliant. It will include a changing table. And this was identified in a 2021 ADA study of all town buildings. Again, for a 1-year tax bill impact on a $1 million household, this is $62 for that 1 year, and then it's done. I'm gonna briefly talk on this schedule. This is basically taking all those tax bill impacts and putting it on one slide. As you can see, we break it out from $1 million household, which is right around the median value of households in Manchester. We also have a $2 million and a $2.6 million household, and what the tax bill impact is on each of these projects individually, 5 years out. We have longer, but it would have been too much to put on a slide. Again, this will get posted online, so feel free to take a look at it after the fact and reach out if you have any questions. On the bottom there is a tax rate table showing what the tax rate has been or has done over the last 5 or 6 fiscal years, going back to fiscal year 2020. So you can see tax rate has steadily decreased year after year. Tax bills have not, because the value of households has increased significantly year after year. So your tax bill is a combination of the tax rate and the value of your home. Article 19 is community preservation. There's a number of projects here that they're recommending. A number of them, I think, are standard articles that you've seen in the past, administrative or cemetery restoration. There's photo restoration, the meeting house roof at the First Parish Church, a number of things in recreation. And like I mentioned earlier, the $350,000 for the Rotunda and $100,000 for Manchester Affordable Housing Trust. There's 4 zoning articles proposed by the planning board this year. Article 20 is downtown zoning, 21 is senior housing, 22 is zoning for inns, and 23 is an ADU update. All of the language in these articles will be found in the appendice of the FinCom report that'll be mailed to everybody's household, but they're also available on the website, as well as the planning board's recommendations and background information. They put together a number of frequently asked question documents, everything that you could possibly want to know about these articles is available on the manchester.ma.us website. Article 20 essentially is proposing 2 new zoning districts in the downtown area, the Town Center District and the Harbor's Edge District. This proposal was, I believe, was born from a major public process with residents about the vibrancy of downtown and wanting to try to promote commercial business in the downtown area while also not being too restrictive on private property owners' ability to utilize their space for housing. Article 21, senior housing, is a new zoning bylaw to allow for a certain type of senior housing. I don't believe we currently have a senior housing bylaw, so this will help with senior housing, independent living, and senior housing and assisted living. Zoning for inns, Article 22. We have our zoning currently defines hotels, but inns are limited to 12 guest rooms or less. So this is adding inns into our zoning and into the table of use chart. And then Article 23, ADUs, accessory dwelling units. That was a big subject matter last year. We had a couple articles related to ADUs. This is making a correction to District D1 and D2. And that is it. So there are a few citizen petitions. There's 3 citizens petitions that I don't have slides here for. I can go to the website and show you where you can find those. It's gonna show. So if you go to manchester.ma.us, go to the home page. If you scroll under government, in the bottom right-hand corner, it's town meeting and election information. If you scroll down to this area here, we have links to a number of different documents that provide information. Citizens petitions are here, citizen petition 1. This is a citizen petition seeking to establish a study committee to examine the feasibility and effects of adopting ranked choice voting for municipal town elections. Citizens petition 2 is a zoning article as well. This came in through citizens petition. It did have a planning board hearing, and the planning board did put out a recommendation related to this article. And citizens petition 3 is a resolution in support of the US Constitution. You can go to the annual town meeting warrant by clicking here, and on these links here, the finance committee report should be updated, uploaded to this website probably by tomorrow. Okay, so that's the information. That's the information that concludes the informational session. Unless we're open for any questions anyone might have, whether it be online or in the room. Slides. I think so. Thanks. I don't see any questions coming in through Zoom. Like I said, I do have office hours the next 2 Tuesdays from 3 to 5 p.m. So if you, we got a Chuck.
Good evening, Tony. Thank you for your presentation. A couple of questions. One, you used as an example the $1 million household, or the assessed value of $1 million. Just out of curiosity, what percentage of the household in Manchester would fit that description?
Well, it's our median household. I'll tell you right now. The average home value in Manchester by the Sea is $815,700.
The average or the median, Tony?
Median.
The median.
Okay. Second question. In the financial information in the budget year over year, you show a $300,000 increase for debt service. And I tried to do some math on that, and I struggle to make it work with a proposed $29.5 million of additional debt, recognizing that everything doesn't get incurred in fiscal '27. What's the ultimate annualized debt burden should we have to borrow $29.5 million?
I'd have to do an analysis for you to look at what our existing debt service is in the out years, and then layer on top the debt service that would be added if all of the exclusionary votes get added. And I can do that analysis and make sure I have it for Tuesday next week.
Great. I think that'd be really helpful to put a dollar number on that to, so I don't think $300,000 is, that's not realistic for that debt burden. So to get an idea of what it will be, assuming that we had to borrow that amount of money and not knowing what the maturities of the debt would be, I think that'd really be a great service to the voters.
Absolutely. I think we also include a number of charts in the back of the Finance Committee book related to debt and future burden as well. So I'll make sure I'll do that analysis for you and have it for next week, but I think we include that in the Finance Committee book too.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, I don't see any other questions. Thank you all for joining, whether you're online or in person. Appreciate your time and see you next week.